There we go.
Now we're frozen, so I'm going to stop the stream and restart it. And the noise, we got the noise figured out, but we're not figuring out why we're frozen.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, I had somehow couldn't get the thing off. The thing.
Okay, so looks like we're up and running now.
Okay, I'm just refreshing my page to see if I can. Oh, yeah, I think we are. I'm just going to mute my screen. Okay. Jess, are we good to go?
We're good to go.
Perfect. I guess I just want to welcome everybody to the RTC online conference. This panel is Laughter is the Best Medicine. And I think we all know we could use some laughter right now. Viola, I'm here with Viola Grace, Gorri, and Hildie McQueen. And we don't have Sienna Zander yet, right? No.
Right.
Okay. So I'll be your moderator. My name's Ludvica, and if you guys have any questions, you can pop over onto the live stream chat and let me know what your question is. If it's specific to an author or a book, just let me know which author it's for. And I will do my best to get to all of your questions. In the meantime, just to start, how about we go through introductions of everybody? Viola, would you like to start? Tell us a little bit about who you are, what you write, where you're calling from, and how are you doing today?
I'm good. And I got up kind of early. I'm very short on sleep today, so this could be either very good or very bad. I'm in from Winnipeg, Manitoba. I've been writing light humor for almost 15 years. And I really enjoy making people laugh and getting that surprised giggle when I work.
Fantastic. CD, would you like to tell us a little bit introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you write and how you're doing and where you're writing from?
Sure. Good morning, everybody. My name is CB Gorri. I'm coming from New Jersey, my son's bedroom, hence the Pikachu. And I write paranormal romance, and I like to incorporate comedy in all of my stories just because, I want them to be lighthearted. I want readers to feel good when they, get their hands on them. And I'm doing fine this morning. How is everybody else?
I'm doing good so far, but I've had 2 cups of coffee, so I'm awake and ready.
Perfect.
Hildie, how are you doing today? Would you like to introduce yourself and let us know what you write, where you're writing from, and how are you doing as well?
I am doing good this morning. Hi, I'm Hildie McQueen, and this is Pippa. She is demanding to be held this morning. She's high maintenance.
Hi,
Pippa. I write medieval Highlanders and also Western historical romance. And sometimes I love to, because especially in the medieval Highlanders, the storylines can sometimes be super serious. So I like to inject a little bit of humor, and sometimes I'll just crack up laughing because at the situation, they just had this heated love scene and he gets tangled in the sheets and falls off the bed or something. So I always like to do something that all of a sudden your emotions go poof from another, to another. And laughter is always good. It always adds a little bit of fun to the situation, I think. So that's me. And I am in Augusta, Georgia right now. I'm in my office with the door closed to keep the barking from not being overheard. But I think if I can get her not to bark, then everything should be quiet.
Oh, she's adorable, by the way.
She can be.
All right. Well, I just want to remind, I see a few people have logged in and are on the chat. And I just want to remind them all that if you guys have any questions, do let me know and I'll be happy to ask any of the authors. But I guess to start, I was going to ask, and I think Hildie, you kind of touched upon this, is what's your favorite part about writing in this genre or adding comedy to your, what's your favorite part about it? Viola, would you like to start?
Sure. Nope, that's fine. I like making people laugh. I like making people, or not making people, but giving people a read where they can giggle, and when they close the book, there's a slight smile on their face. If they aren't smirking and want to go back and do it again, then I did it wrong.
Fair enough. I do like, as a reader, I do appreciate that. I do love a good laugh. Dee, would you like to tell us a little bit about what is it that you like about writing in this genre?
So what I like about comedy and paranormal romance and why they go together is because, I think it provides readers with a good escape. And I think it should be fun. I want readers to have a good time. So, like Hildie was saying, when you have, this big macho, strong hero do something comical, like get tangled in the sheets or, stick his foot in his mouth when he's talking to the woman of his dreams, it makes us all laugh. It makes us smile. Humor is the great equalizer. It's something we can all relate to. And I love being able to provide that.
Thank you. Hildie, is there anything you'd like to add to that? Because I know you already touched upon it, but would you like to add anything?
No, just that it's fun. It's really fun. And, writing can be so serious. And sometimes we're like, especially if you're the kind of person that's always laughing or whatever and like to joke around, it's nice to add a little bit of yourself into that. And just, so I think that's what's fun about adding humor to stories.
I personally do love a good comedy, and I think all three of you do it really well. And I think as a writer, or as an aspiring writer, I guess, my question to you would be, for all of you, is in times like this, like I know everyone enjoys writing comedy, especially if it's a part of who you are and you can inject a little of that into your books. But when things aren't going so well in your personal world, or right now, if you look at the situation, how do you find the humor to put into the books? How do you find that within yourself to write that into your books? Hildie, would you like to go first?
So you said how to find the situation to put humor into our books?
When the situation is sort of like when things going around aren't very positive, how do you find the ability to sort of still write humor in the books?
Especially right now, I think it's much needed. As a matter of fact, one of my favorite hobbies is to annoy my husband just to laugh. So, because the situations we're both stuck here at the house, and sometimes you just have to inject humor into situations. And I think the same, I have this heroine where she is going through some kind of rough times, and she's looking for medicinal herbs in the garden, in the forest, to try to help someone that's very, very sick. So it's a very serious situation. And she can't find her brother, and her brother's escorting her. And she's like, where did he go? And then she hears swimming, like water splashing. And she's so pissed because she's like, right now, really? You're going to go swimming? Not only am I in danger because you're not watching me, but you're having fun. So she goes out to the toward the river's edge, and she sees his butt come out of the water, and she throws this log at it, and boom, hits him right on the butt. Then she hears splashing and cursing, and she's laughing, laying on the floor laughing, because despite everything, it's funny. And so he comes and grabs her and throws her into the water, and as she's about to fall into the water, she looks and sees a very naked Laird. So who she hit was not her brother, but the Laird, who is very dangerous, and that's at war right now. So it's funny, but at the same time, you're like, oh crap, what's going to happen to her now?
Wait, just out of curiosity, what book was this one?
I know you were going to ask me that, and I'm trying to remember.
Well, because I think I should read the scene.
No, let me
come back to you.
I'll get back to you on that. I'm trying to remember what book it was.
We'll get back to you.
It's the Heartless Laird.
The Heartless
Part
Laird.
of Clan Ross, yes.
Sorry, I'm just going to write that down. The Heartless Lair, everyone. CD, would you like to comment on how is it that you go about injecting humor when things around you aren't exactly, well, funny?
Yeah, I think what Hildie said, like, hit the nail on the head, that when, times are hard and times are dark, I think we're all looking for a little bit of escape. And what better way than to laugh? And as a writer, as a storyteller, it's kind of my job. So I take it, very seriously, this whole laughter business and bringing it to my readers. And, it's funny, I'm working on edits for a story that's coming out in, what's today's date? In like 3 weeks, almost 3 weeks. And, the same thing where you have this huge character who is, larger than life, this big tough guy. And, here he is doing silly things. And in the scene that I'm actually working on, which, you just reminded me of, it's the sex scene. It's about to start. And, the heroine is sassy and she's determined that, he's got to work for it a little. And one of the things is, hey, when he's undressing her, her zipper gets stuck. And he's a shifter. So he's all about, the tear and the growl. And she's like, these are my favorite pair of jeans. So you better be careful or this is going to go nowhere. And that's kind of where I am right now. And it's funny. It made me laugh. And I'm hoping my readers are going to enjoy it too. And that book is Polar Outbreak. So you're dealing with like a 7'2" polar bear shifter, and he's got to be gentle.
I know, I like my favorite pair of jeans. I'd be pretty pissed too if they got ripped.
Exactly. Proceed with caution.
And that's coming out in 3 weeks, you said. I'll ask you about it later as well at the end.
Awesome.
Viola, would you like to comment? How do you sort of continue to inject humor when things around you aren't exactly positive? It's kind of, oh, you're just on mute. There we go.
Got it. Sorry, I was using the Control D thing and it wouldn't undee. I don't know what the D does. How do you inject? I see humor everywhere in every possible situation. I go for the cheap laugh. In my current work, it's actually a really kind of serious subject. It's humanity after an asteroid collision. Aliens have come to scoop up, the bits of living people that are left and basically sell them as bond servants, where you can earn your way out of it eventually, but you got to pay to leave. And a woman just pimped herself out to save her farm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So she sold herself for some goats in a fine human tradition.
I don't mean to laugh, but
No, it's funny.
I don't know if it's your delivery or but it is funny.
That's what it's designed to be funny, and hopefully it is. Comes out in about 2 weeks. So
okay, well, at the end we'll get back to what you guys are working on, so you can remind everybody of when things are coming out. I actually, sorry, didn't mean to cut you off. Did you have anything to? Nope, we're good. Fair enough. We do have a question from a reader. Dar Good asks, who is your favorite author to read when you need a good laugh or a pick-me-up? Viola, since you were just on, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Jane Castle / Amanda Quick / like a whole bunch of other sub people. I love her stuff. She always makes me laugh.
Sorry, Jane Castle and Amanda Quick, you said.
Yeah.
Is there any particular book from any of them that you would recommend?
If you like light science fiction, Shield's Lady.
Okay.
And I don't know. She's been writing for years and years and years and years and years, and I love her stuff.
Fantastic. CD, would you like to add what books, what author do you like to read? And maybe if you've got an example of a book from their line that is a good pick-me-up for you?
Sure. I read so much. I love so many authors. Comedy authors that come to mind. It's romantic comedy because that's what I like. I love Eve Langlais's books, Celia Kyle, Millie Taden. I mean, they're just all wonderful. They're funny. Right now, I'm rereading the Ridgeville series for Kyle. It's just, she does wonderful things with shifters, and it's great for a giggle.
Sorry, I missed that last one because you just sort of cut out the very.
Oh, sorry.
Which one?
Was the Celia Kyle Ridgeville series.
Celia Kyle. Oh, I read that. The Ridgeville series, right? You said?
Yeah.
Yes. By Celia Kyle. Yeah, that one's a fantastic one too.
Yeah, she's great. I love Maya. She's a great character.
He's sassy and out right in your face, right?
Absolutely. Love it.
Fantastic. Hildie, what author do you read as a pick-me-up for a good laugh? And if you have a particular book that you'd like to throw out there.
Well, I don't read historical as much as I would love to because I write it. So, but I do love light reading that makes me laugh. So one of my favorite books of all time is "Can You Keep a Secret" by Sophie Kinsella, because she's on an airplane with this guy and she thinks the plane's going to crash, so she spills everything, her entire dirty laundry, to this guy sitting next to her, much to his surprise. And she's just telling him everything, including the fact that she keeps thongs in her drawer and never wears them. And then later on, turns out that's going to be her boss, you know. So that book is hilarious because he keeps bringing up stuff from the secret she spilled. And then the other author that I love to read, it never stops me from cracking up out loud, is Janet Ivanovich, the Stephanie Plum series.
Yes.
And there's one called Lucky Plum about this guy who thinks he's a leprechaun. And oh my God, that one I laughed so freaking hard at 2 scenes that I was crying. So yeah, those two are always make me laugh. Those 2 authors are amazing and they're so good at humor.
they actually, I read those. They are fantastic. I have another question from Kimmy Seeley. Which of your books do you consider to be the funniest? That's a good question. Hildie, since you're on the screen, I'm going to throw you to the wolves first.
Oh my God. Okay. So I don't write a lot of comedy. So I guess I'm thinking back to one of my Westerns. It's the Shades of Blue series. And this one, the heroine and hero, their interchanges, because she's quite feisty. It's you know what? It's not the Shades of Blue. It's the Brides for All Season. And it's the Lucky Bride. She is so freaking feisty that she's always saying things to him that made me laugh out loud. And one thing, she walked into the barn and she's looking at him, and he's one of those, what do you call it, brooding heroes, I guess. And he's just brooding, and you know, he has good reason, but she's like, oh, come on, you know, this guy is like bringing me down. I mean, well, maybe she said it another way since it's 1865, but he's like, you know, there's nothing you can do to help me, you know, blah blah blah, you know, just nothing you can do. And she goes, yes, I can help you, like set up a rope and a noose so you can hang yourself, you know. So I just laughed out loud because she's so feisty. She's like, come on. And he couldn't help but kind of chuckle at that. So she's like, so I think they have a lot of interchanges like that in the Lucky Bride or a Lucky Bride that made me laugh. I think it was more the dialogue than the situations.
Fair enough. Everyone, I love a feisty heroine. It always makes for good comedy. Dee, I'll move on to you. Out of all your books so far, what would you say is the funniest?
That's kind of a hard question too, because my books aren't straight up comedy. They're romance with, you know, comic elements thrown in. But because I'm working on this Polar Bear series, it's the Barvale Clan series, I'm going to say book 1, Polar Opposites. And the way the hero and heroine meet is kind of funny. You know, he has to pick her up from an airport, and being a shifter, he relies on his sense of smell to identify things. And this particular heroine got pulled back from a vacation, and being a natural redhead, because she doesn't tan very well, she decided to get a spray tan. And the chemical spray tan is interfering with his sense of smell, and his whole first reaction is, what is that? And it's kind of funny. You know, well, I thought it was funny. But yeah, so I'm going to say Polar Opposites.
That sounds actually really funny. A good read. Viola, would you, out of all your books, what would you say is the most
For-
funny?
For sheer giggles, I would say Gnomes of Suburbia.
That I just one clicked.
Hey!
Can't wait.
The main character is the main heroine. She's magical. She has woken up some of the gnome statues she's created, and they decide at one point to go on a ram raid to a Home Depot and a local superstore to get her everything that she needs. They've decided they're her butlers. They're taking care of her. If she can make magic, they'll just get stronger. So they hijack a bunch of like little Jeeps and Barbie cars, you know, the little ones with the battery packs, and they go shopping. So yeah, it has a lot of interesting points. One of the gnomes is a little BDSM gnome. There's a naked gnome. There's a female gnome with boxing gloves. There's a ballerina gnome. There's a half-size gnome because she ran out of materials. So, you know, and they all have very specific names and very specific personalities.
I just want to, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but I just want to interject. Somebody just mentioned on the chat that Ellie Beagle just said, and their outfits. So I'm assuming the gnome outfits. Do you mind? I haven't read this one yet, but I'd love to know what is the outfits.
Well, Herbie, the Harbinger, he's the BDSM gnome, so he's dressed in black leather with like a little cod piece and everything, and assless chaps. Ruffles. I'm sorry, I made her inhale her coffee. Ruffles has a little tutu, so she's a little tutu gnome. Skint, he's the naked gnome. He's naked, and he's not fig leaf naked. He's just naked. Bitsy is dressed like a normal gnome, but again, he's really tiny. Mitzi has little boxing gloves, so she's dressed out in boxing togs. And there's Splint, who has a broken arm, leg. Yeah, anyway, he's on on crutches.
I knew asking that question would pay off for some reason. But all right, thank you for that. I'm going to switch over to a different topic. I'm just curious more on the industry itself. And I know that not all of you write strictly romantic comedies or whatnot, but just out of curiosity, when it comes to humor, how have you seen that change in books in the last 5 years or so? Has how you write the humor, what type of humor you use, or how you use it in your books, has that changed over the last 5 to 10 years? CD, would you like to comment? I'll start with you.
I've actually only been publishing for 5 years, so I'm not sure if I've seen a difference, so to speak, in the last 5 years. I think that, you know, humor is universal. I think there are, of course, modern topics, you know, that we can bring up in our books, which that changes every day. But I'm not sure industry-wise if it's changed.
Viola, I'll switch over to you. Have you seen any changes in the type of humor that you would put in your books from, you know, maybe 5 years ago to now, or?
The type of humor, no. But since I've been at this, published since 2006, I have seen just a change in the variety of book styles and genres that are now available. So when I started, everything was, we'll call it pure. I don't know if that's the right word, but romance was romance, science fiction was science fiction, and you couldn't cross-pollinate at any point. Oh yeah, you could not, because in 2006, we were just coming off of the original internet, which was almost exclusive to universities.
Right.
And that's where people were getting their ebooks. Moby, of course, was a big seller, and then was absorbed by Amazon. And the publisher that I was with was one of the first publishers to upload their entire catalog to Amazon when they started. So it's, yes, that old technologically we're talking. But after the merger with Amazon, then the genres began to come out. Then you could start to blur the lines a little bit. You know, your science fiction could have some humor, and your romance could be ridiculous. And that was my wheelhouse.
Oh,
So I still write the same thing now. I just think, and according to my readers, I write it better. So I'd love to go back and like renovate a few of the early ones.
will you be doing that?
I have to go through my publisher for them, and because of cover art and other things, it has to be done in little stages. So
Fair enough. So we'll just have to sit tight and wait for that. Hildie, how about yourself? Have you seen anything change? I know that you write more historicals and you inject humor into them. Has that changed in the last 5 years in terms of adding more humor, less humor? Could you do it before? Could you not add humor in? Has that changed at all?
I think historical writers overall have always been really adept at adding humorous situations. I think part of the fun of reading historical romance is interjecting humor into these very stoic situations. You know, I don't remember the author, but I wish I could. But you know, just little things, because society was so strict and all these little rules. And I don't write Regency, but that is one of the genres that would probably give me more gray hairs than I currently have, thanks to the quarantine. But you know, things like, you know, things that you didn't know, like pineapples were shared by families to be set up in the table to impress guests, because they were so hard to come by in England and during Regency time. So, you know, there's this one scene that a friend of mine wrote, and I can't remember who it is, where the heroine was trying to impress the people there, and she took the pineapple and chopped it up and to serve it. And everybody's like gasping, because it's like they were, you know, they paid a lot of money for it, and it was only supposed to be a centerpiece. But just interjecting that stuff a lot, you know, into historicals is so much fun. But I have noticed, yes, that sometimes in historical, you see these situations that only we would get nowadays, you know, because of the changing of times or whatever, that back in maybe in the 80s or 90s or even 5 years ago, people would be like, yeah, I don't get it. But now, because of this, you know, adding a little bit of more of a humor that's more geared to the present, shows up in historicals. And that's, to me, it's always funny. I always bust out laughing, because you're thinking, okay, that word probably would never been said back then, or if it would have been said, it wouldn't mean back then what it means to us now, and it makes you, you know, laugh out loud.
That's true. That is very true, actually.
I had a heroine once go, really? You know, but it's something that but maybe they did say it. Who knows? You know, but nowadays we always say that. No, seriously, or really, you know, kind of thing.
Do the eye roll.
Yeah.
I'm curious. I think some of you have already mentioned this a few times, but what is the funniest scene that you've written in your book? Or if you've already mentioned one, then what is the what funny scene would you like to write that you haven't written yet? Either answer to either question is perfectly fine. Viola, would you like to start?
Well, we've already heard about the one scene with the gnomes and the driving, which to me is one of my all-time favorites. But in the same book, there's also a moment where the heroine and the elf next door get together. But since she's kind of putting out magic and animating everything around her, somebody gets licked by the couch.
What? Licked?
Licked.
By the couch?
By the couch. The couch comes alive, and it licks one of them, and I can't remember which one it is. But I was just snorting and giggling and just... well, yeah.
Sorry. I think I got to really pick up that gnome book. Is there
it's one of three.
Is there any... is there a scene that you're dying to, a funny scene that you've sort of been contemplating in your head and you're dying to write but haven't written yet for whatever reason? It's like...
No, I pretty much, as I think about it, I put it right in there.
Okay.
I just jam it on in there. I'm like, oh, it'd be really funny if they did. So they will.
Just get her done, eh?
Life is too short to hold on to scenes you're never going to see in publication.
Okay, that's good advice. CD, is there any scene that, what is the funniest scene that you've written, or any scene that you haven't written but are dying to write that's a funny sort of take on things?
So I'm thinking about my first paranormal romance. It's called Charlie's Christmas Wolf. And Charlie is a human woman. And the whole story, it doesn't sound, well, I'm just gonna say it. Okay, so she gets kidnapped by like 7 werewolves who kidnap her for their alpha because he needs a mate and they're trying to help him out. And, she does kind of click with the alpha. And after, they get together, he's trying to tell her that he's a werewolf. And she's like, oh my God, you're delusional. Like, here I am, I'm in this whirlwind, weekend romance with this man, and, you're crazy. Like, it's okay, we're going to get you help. And he opens, the terrace doors, and he's like, I'm a werewolf. Like, this is real. And it's just funny because she's trying to convince him that he's crazy and, I'm going to call an ambulance. And, of course, he proves her wrong and he turns into a wolf. The rest is history. But, that scene always cracks me up because I just, I can really feel for her. She's like, I can't believe this. This is crazy. And, it's cute. It's funny. And it was my first time writing a scene like that. And as for, scenes I haven't written yet, I think, Viola kind of hit that one on the head too. I have to write it down because, otherwise there's just so many things going on in my brain. If I don't, I will forget it. So anything I think of, it's somewhere, it's in a notebook, it's jotted down, it's, going to go somewhere eventually.
Oh, wow. Okay. So we just have to wait and see what comes out then.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Hildie, is there any, I know that you've said a couple of scenes already, but is there any other scene that's out of all the scenes, the funniest one that you've written yourself? And is there any funny scene that you haven't written that you want to explore and write, or?
I think one of I remember in A Different Shade of Blue where the heroine arrives out west. She's tired. She's getting out of the stagecoach, and there's nobody there to greet her. Her future husband is not there, so that's not setting up a good first impression. So she storms and gets a ride on the back of a wagon, which is like unbecoming to her. And she gets to the center of town, and there's this. She's like, okay, this place is barbaric because 2 people fall out of the saloon, and they're fighting in the middle of the dusty road. And she's standing back against the building, freaked out. And this girl comes up and she's like, oh my gosh, is this the way things are? And the girl goes, no, actually, the guy's kind of a hothead, but normally, that doesn't happen all the time. So the pastor of the town runs over there and tries to break up the fight and gets him all dusted and brings the guy over to where, and it turns out the girl standing next to her is the pastor's daughter. And he's bringing this guy, and he's like, apologize to the ladies for this. And he apologizes, and he's like, looks at the girl, at the one that just arrived, and the pastor, says, what's your name? And she introduces herself, and the guy that just got through fighting got a swollen eye, busted lip. And he realizes in that moment that's his future bride, and that he missed the stagecoach. So just the expression on his face, he doesn't really want to tell her that he's the guy. And, the pastor's looking at him like, did you forget your name in this fight or what? Because he's just kind of like, oh. And the girl's looking at him, and they're all like, and finally the pastor goes, this is, Grace and Cole. And the girl's like, okay, when is the next stagecoach out of town?
What book was this again?
It's called A Different Shade of Blue.
A Different Shade of Blue.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I just love that. That's the very first chapter, and it's gonna sets up the whole situation for her. You can't help but feel sorry for her because, like, poor thing, she just traveled across the country, and that's gonna be her new husband.
That is funny. Thank you for that. I have a question from Ellie. So what scenes that someone else has written that are supposed to be funny that you don't think is funny? So is there something that you've read that you found from someone else that you found was meant to be funny but wasn't? And if you could, I'd say it's more of like a do and don't of comedy. Basically, is there a scene that you wouldn't do or it wasn't funny for a particular reason? Viola, would you like to start? I know you've probably.
No, generally not, because if it was supposed to be funny and it wasn't funny, then I wouldn't have thought it was supposed to be funny. I would in my head think if I was setting up the situation, I would do it a different way. You can force the funny. It's not always the most comfortable thing for the author, but you can force the funny. Not everybody is good at kind of sly wit. Some people, they try sly wit and it comes out sarcasm or bitchy by the hero or heroine. So you just suck it up and keep reading and hope it gets better.
Is there any, just for aspiring authors in this particular category, like romantic, when you're writing comedy in general, is there a do or don't that you would, a piece of advice that you would say when it comes to writing or injecting humor in?
Try not, just like in life, try not to injure your characters in pursuit of the laugh, because readers are going to remember that. So that whole, tripping on somebody making a hem too long, or like tacking a hem loose on a skirt so that it makes somebody fall down the stairs for a cheap giggle. It's like, yes, some people would laugh at that, but the readers that want to read the book over and over again are just going to flip past that part because it'll make them queasy after the first read. So don't hurt your characters. You can embarrass them. You can, tuck the skirt in the pantyhose. That's an evergreen. But then you can only have one person see it. You can't publicly humiliate them, have it go viral or anything like that. Nothing that sticks, nothing that damages them permanently, because that creates that turns the character into something now that's an object of pity, and you can't really root for an object of pity. You can just kind of go, oh, you poor thing.
That's good advice. I never really thought of that.
Oh, I'm very wise.
I can see. Thank you for that. CD, would you like to comment? Has there ever been a scene or something that you've read where it was meant to be funny, but you read it and it just wasn't for whatever reason, or you just didn't like that particular brand of comedy? Is there any sort of?
I can't think of any examples really, but I think Viola's right. If something didn't work, I would probably just skip over it while I was reading. For me, I think the comedy has to be, natural, not forced for me to enjoy it. I do like sarcasm when it's done well. I like sass. I like that kind of humor. Not so much the, slapstick in books. I don't know if I can get into it, but yeah.
Is there any advice that you would have for someone who's trying to inject humor into their book, like a do or a don't tip?
I find it very useful when I'm writing or when I'm editing to read out loud, read what I wrote out loud to see if it works. And if it's, going to be funny, if I'm not smiling while I'm reading it, then, I have to go back and rework that. I think it helps you hear it better, All
right, fair enough. Thank you. Hildie, is there any scene that you've read by someone else and have thought they completely missed the mark on this, that for whatever reason that the humor didn't work?
I read this book, and I'm not going to say the author's name, but no. That I was like, I kind of cringed a little bit. I think it was supposed to be funny, but the bride it's right after the wedding, and she can't find her husband, and she finds him having sex with one of the bridesmaids. Maybe even the maid of honor, but as she's turning around and stalking off, she trips on her wedding dress. So I don't know if that was supposed to be funny, but I was like, ew, the poor. Instead, I'm going, poor thing. Of all the things, she's already gone through this horrible thing, and then it turns out it is a comedy, but at that point, it wasn't that funny to me. Because I'm like, I was kind of like, I felt bad for her.
You felt pity for her, right? Like
exactly. And I think, I think it was a comedy, so it was supposed to be funny. And I guess it could be, but it was just a situation for me. I just felt bad for the poor lady.
Is there any tip that you would, because you inject a lot of humor into your books at different points, and you write mostly historical, you were saying, and do you have any do's or don'ts that you would give to somebody who's trying to either write a romantic comedy or to inject humor into a book?
I think the main thing is not to hurt feelings, or not to add insult to injury when it's something that could hit home for a reader. You know, don't add, like in this case, you know, what if somebody broke up with you horribly, and as you're running off upset, you trip and fall in the mud and a dog bites you in the butt? You know, it's, well, that's kind of funny, but but I would not pile on top of the person hurt. Maybe the person that got caught cheating, make them be the one that runs off and falls in the mud and gets bitten by a dog in the butt. You know, not the person who just saw them kissing somebody else, you know, something like that. I just don't like adding insult to injury to the person that has been hurt in any way, or in any way make light of social situations, you know, like, you know, that would trigger some people.
Okay, that's good. Viola, I saw you waving. Do you have something to add?
Yeah, exactly what she described there, but you can use that information. You just have to put it in a past tense, you know, like you have your main character staggering home, her clothes are ripped, or she's muddy, she's crying, she's sniffling, there's a big snot bubble coming out. You have her staggering home, and she's reflecting on her absolute worst day of her life. And from there, you can build her back up, because you haven't shown all the people that have seen her, you haven't shown her humiliation, you haven't made it active for the reader. You've made it past tense for the character. So you make it part of her, but not, yeah, exactly. It's like part of her, but not actively her. Also, you can always use a pet. If you need emergency comic relief, give them a pet.
Oh, really?
It works. Yeah, it works every time. I have a species that I make. They look like Furbies. In one of my science fiction things, they can get in and out of anywhere. They're empathic healers. They help the person that they bond to, and then as they grow up and evolve, they're self-producing, but they also turn into giant raptors. So wow. they're emotional defense when their person needs it, and then they become physical defense later on. So so they're fun to have around because they make all kinds of noise, and they have tiny cute little babies.
Fair enough. That's some good advice. So basically, if you're going to write something, don't pile hurt upon hurt upon hurt upon that character.
Don't make the reader watch it.
Okay.
Don't make the reader watch it while it's happening.
So
you can have like scratches on her. You can have like half her hair shaved off, like she was getting a little side right. tidy there, and her hairstylist sneezed. You know, don't do that in front of people. Just have her come home and deal with it, because we can all respect with a heroine who deals with stuff, but we can't respect one that constantly stumbles into disaster after disaster because they've just stopped looking out for themselves.
All right, that's fantastic. I like that piece of advice. Thank you, guys. I have another question here from somebody on live chat. Has there ever been a scene that you thought was hilarious when you wrote it, but either you proofread it or your editor proofread it and made you cut it because they said it was not funny? So maybe a editor, beta reader, publisher, and we can start with CD. Would you like to start?
Well, no, that never happened to me. Not yet. So I don't know. I'm lucky, I guess, or I just haven't gotten there. I have had stuff get lost sort of in like the colloquialism, like someone didn't get when I phrased something a certain way because it was from that, you know, geographical area. And then I would change it just because I realized, oh, not everyone will know what this means. You know, I'm from New Jersey. Most of my books are set in New Jersey, and I guess some things aren't universal. So I have had that happen because I have beta readers and my art team, you know, all over the world.
Yeah.
And it helps to have their point of view. You know, what did you mean when you said this? You know, not necessarily in a comedy, but, you know, just in the dialogue.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense, because sometimes humor isn't translated universally. That is true. And it's sometimes regional. So that's interesting. So it's good to have beta readers, I guess, that are in other places that can kind of
absolutely
pull you back on that. Thank you. Hildie, is there any scene that you've written that you thought was hilarious, but your publisher or a beta reader or your husband or kids or whoever thought it wasn't that funny?
It happens to me all the time. because Spanish was my native language, and I turn words around like the descriptor after the noun, and so I'm laughing and I'm thinking it's a funny sentence, and my proofreader comes back and goes, "What are you trying to say there?" And I'm like, when blah 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 blah, and I'm laughing, and she's like, "No, that's not funny." And then when I hear it said, when I hear myself saying it, I'm like, "That's not even funny. Why did I think it was funny?" I was like, "What if it was said in Spanish?" And she's like, "Still wouldn't be funny." I'm like, "Yeah, you're right." So lots of times, because I had the descriptors after, it comes out very awkward, and I'm laughing. I'm thinking that somebody said it that way or something happened that way, and then I'm like, "Yeah, no." So it happens to me a lot in the way I write my sentences, where I think something is a little cutesy, not outright like an entire scene though that I thought the scene was funny, and then it turns out it's not. I think a lot of writers, we write certain scenes, of course, and we delete them because then we're like, that's not right for this situation or something like that. Not always comedy, but yeah, lots of times it's more of the way I write, structure my sentences that I'm thinking it's cutesy or funny, and it's not.
So it's just a language thing then.
Yeah, exactly.
Fair enough. Viola, how about yourself? Have you ever written anything that you thought was hilarious but didn't come across that way with a publisher?
Yes and no. I wrote things that I thought were hilarious, but then when my editor gets to them, I got distracted in the middle of the sentence. So I have this great setup, and then she's like, so I have these little comments. What happened here? What happened here? What was she doing? What did she do? What happened there? I'm just very easily distracted. So if a cat walks in, or if somebody calls me downstairs or whatever, I just kind of trail off, and then I start the next sentence because I think I wrote a brilliant piece of prose. And then I'm moving on, and she's like, "Well, what's going on here?" And I'm like, "Oh, now I have to remember what I thought was. I have to remember brilliance, and it doesn't work."
So it happens to everybody then.
Yeah, it does. It's like I've never had anybody cut a scene. I have had to reshape a blurb or a synopsis for the back, like for the back of the book, or for websites, because it's like, oh, some stuff happens to the heroine, which is fine. You can put it in, but you have to kind of obfuscate the bad parts so that you don't trigger anybody just from reading the back of a book.
That's
the only thing I've ever had to rework.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's really good advice. I think my second last question to all of you would be, is there any other advice that you would have for an aspiring writer in terms of when injecting humor into their novel, or how to approach it, or any advice on anything? I'll throw back at you, Viola.
Okay, if you want to make it funny, it doesn't have to be funny. You can make a humorous sci-fi space opera if you want. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, for example. Perfect example. You just have to kind of know your tone and maintain your tone, and drop it or raise it, serious moments, whatever. But there's a kind of a pacing. There's a rise, fall to it. And if you got to stick with it, because if you keep people giggling for one chapter and then it goes quiet, then they're going to be like, well, what happened here? I don't like the book anymore.
That's good advice.
But if you have scene up, scene down, scene up, scene down, or a gradual whatever, but you always have to bring them back to neutral. You always have to set them back at neutral. And from there, you can set going down or you can set going up, but you have to bring them back to neutral every single time.
So maintaining that the hilarity through the book to continue.
Well, not necessarily the hilarity through the book, but your character, like in Gnomes of Suburbia, she moves in, she wants to start a new life. So the whole thing is about her starting the new life, and everything that happens around her is happening around that solid thread. Okay. So she wants what she wants, and she's fighting to get it, but everything is going wackadoodle, left and right, and she's having to deal with stuff she didn't think she'd be dealing with. So at the end of it, she's happy where she lives. Spoiler alert, because there are two other books, so you kind of get that. but she's happy where she is. She's made some friends, and so she's settled. So at the beginning is she going to be settled in the end? Yes, she is. So that thread ran all the way through it, and then we tied up.
Fantastic. CD, is there anything that you would, any last minute tips about injecting humor in a book for an aspiring novelist, aspiring author, or a publishing tip?
I mean, I think Viola just gave us all some really great advice, so thank you for that. I had a visitor, so sorry, my dog was barking. This is Chewy. Say hi, Chewy. He's a baby. I would say, yeah, I think that with humor, you have to be careful. I think that, you should enjoy what you're writing. I think reading it out loud, again, that really does help me to know if things are funny, if they're coming across the way I want them to come across. So if you're a writer, I mean, just keep trying things out. If you haven't published yet, I mean, that's fine. I think you need to just keep at it, really. Any aspiring writer should just keep at it. Don't give up.
Thank you. Hildie, is there any last minute tips that you'd like to give an aspiring author about either injecting humor into their novels or, just in general about publishing?
Yeah, one of the things that I think is great about injecting humor is the unexpected, because that always catches you by surprise and makes you laugh. One of the greatest opening scenes to me is the Susan Elizabeth Phillips, and I can't remember the title, but it starts out with there was a headless beaver walking down the road. And you can't forget that. You're like, I busted out laughing. I'm like, trying to
I think that's one of those the Stars, Chicago Stars book. Those are great.
Yes. Everybody remembers that line because it was like, what the hell is going on? And you couldn't help but laugh. It turns out this girl got fired, and she was one of those characters standing in front of a car dealership or something, and she got fired. So I don't know if she threw the head away or whatever, but she was dressed up as a beaver. But I mean, throwing the unexpected into a story always catches you. When you catch somebody off guard, like, the scene where I have this guy and he's drunk and he gets into this, this girl's invited him to come to her bed. Well, he goes to the wrong room. And the girl whose room he goes into has a crush on him. So she's thinking she's dreaming about this, where it's actually happened. The naked guy is in her bed. But when she realizes it's not a dream and it's a real naked guy, she screams. And when she screams, it scares him. And he falls he tries to, run for the door, but he falls over. And of course, her parents rush into the room. So there's this naked guy laying on the floor, and he's drunk and he's about to throw up. And the heroine's on the bed screaming. And just the whole thing that you get caught off guard because you're like, is she really dreaming, or is this guy really there? So when she screams and all this happens, all the people rush in, then, you get caught off guard. So I love that kind of thing, catching people off guard, and whether I'm reading it or I write it myself. I think it's always funny.
Oh, wow. I love that. Since I have you on the screen still, Hildie, may I ask, what are your future projects? What do you have coming out next? What would you like to tell us about?
I just had a release this week. It's
congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. It's called A Hellish Highlander, and it's a medieval Scottish romance with this super, super hot hero, the youngest of three brothers. So so right now I am also writing, just finished the second Highlander book, and then I'm about to go into writing some schmexy, very sexy Western historicals with under a different pen name. But so I'm having fun. I'm doing a lot of different projects right now.
Oh, fantastic. CD, would you like to tell us about your what projects you're working on, what next book you have coming out? Because I know you mentioned earlier you have one.
Yeah, actually, May is pretty busy. I have a story in a anthology coming out, Dark Moon Falls, Volume 2. I also have a new Sassy Ever After book with MT Worlds, Breaking Sass. That's going to release this month. And the one I had mentioned is Polar Outbreak, with my Barvale Clan Tales about a polar bear shifter. And that's going to come out May 15th.
May 15th, fantastic. Viola, you're up next.
I'm up next. Let's see. I'm currently working on Designed Collision, which is the third of the Shattered Stars books. It has some light humor in it, very serious moments, but some light humor. And I just finished and published Bride of the Witch King, which is going to come in handy for the witch panel later on today. And after Design Collision, there will be another one of the Covert Dragon series. So steampunk dragons, they didn't know they were dragons until all of a sudden, kapoof. So it's magic, it's shifters, it's an interesting society where magic got to North America first.
Right.
And lots of fun.
Excellent. Well, that all sounds very exciting from all of you. We're hitting the 11:30 mark, so I want to thank all of our authors for coming on the panel today. I want to thank all the readers for your kind questions and for tuning in. So thank you very, very much. And we'd like to thank Jess Ripley for putting this on and letting us have the RTC online convention during this lockdown period. And I just want to remind all the readers as well, everyone who's joined us, the next panel is American Canadian Historical, and it starts at 12 to 1 p.m. So either like or subscribe to this channel to get the notifications for when it starts, and it'll go live at 12. You can also check us out on Facebook as well. I'm pretty sure you can see the link there as well. So thank you to everybody today, and we'll be up and running at 12 again. Bye.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you. Nice.